welcome to our first of our 5-part series, Ready, Set, Go, getting ready for sports betting coming to Ohio, January 1st, 2023. This is a journey towards responsible sports betting in Ohio, and hopefully this will be a good opportunity to really give you a better understanding as to what to expect that's coming to Ohio on January 1st. Now I'd like to turn things over to Corey Brown, Manager of Problem Gambling Services at the Ohio Casino Control Commission. Before I do that though, I just want to thank Corey for all the work that he's done to help corral and coordinate all of our speakers throughout the series and really help build out what the series has become. As we talk about and are often hear about the Ohio model or of how other states should operate and coordinate, I think this is a prime example of how the Ohio model is working in action, of our ability to work with the Ohio Lottery Commission, Casino Control Commission, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, as well as what I like to call ORG Plus, being Problem Gambling Network of Ohio and Prevention Action Alliance, to really build out a comprehensive and robust gambling service system for all in Ohio. So thanks to our ORG partners, and also thanks to Corey for really leading the effort in coordinating many aspects of this series. So Corey, I'll turn things over to you.
Well, thank you, Derek. And as Derek said, I am the Manager of Problem Gambling Services with the Ohio Casino Control Commission. I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers today, Will Cox, the Deputy General Counsel with the Ohio Casino Control Commission, and Jon Dillinger, Sports Gaming Project Manager with the Ohio Lottery Commission.
So my name is William Cox. I am Deputy General Counsel here with the Commission. My role as it relates to sports gaming has kind of been playing the point person for the Commission on making sure that as individuals call in and need assistance, as individuals need someone to talk to regarding the rules that we're writing, the statute, and all the other activities that we're doing, that they have someone to talk to directly. They're not just talking to an email. They're not just talking to an automated voice response system. So I want to get into a little bit more about what we do after letting Jon talk, but I do also want to talk about some of our other people here at the Commission, so you know who to talk to. Corey Brown, of course, is very obviously one of them, and is someone who you should all talk to as we get talking about the voluntary exclusion program, as we move towards looking at consumer protections, underage protections, and all of those things that he's actually reviewing right now. We'll get into this a little bit later. Corey's been swamped. We have a November 2nd deadline to get all of the responsible gaming information approved. So he's been working very hard at that. You also probably know Amanda Blackford. Amanda Blackford has been the Director of Responsible Gaming here for quite some time, and is also someone you should all feel free to reach out to. And beyond that, we also have our licensing folks here. If anyone has any concerns, they should always feel free to reach out to our licensing team. Anna Marin Russell is our director over there, and our compliance staff, who's in charge of making sure that a lot of the other compliance related materials, as well as the audits related to responsible gaming, gets done. And Craig Donahue is our lead over there. So we want to have an open door policy. We want to be able to talk with all of you. We want to make sure that we're hearing from the treatment and prevention side, because we're certainly going to hear from the operator side. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Jon for his introduction.
Will, appreciate it. And thank you everyone on this call today. Appreciate the opportunity to kind of share what the lottery is doing and where our role is within this January 1st launch. Again, my name is Jon Dillinger. I am the Sports Gaming Operations Manager here at the lottery. I've been in this role since April. So we have been working though beyond that point with a large group of our lottery team, similar to Will. While I am the face of today, there are a lot of others that are behind the scenes helping on different fronts as well. We had a strong senior staff team that has helped with a lot of our rules drafting and modifications early on in the process. We have our own sports gaming team that's come on. There's a group of 3 of us as well, or 4 of us, I should say, including myself, that are handling a lot of the host questions and a lot of the retailer information a lot of the phone calls we get from retailers with questions on how the program works and what's required of them. They do an excellent job of getting that information out to them and making sure that they have all the resources they need. And then we also have our own responsible gambling group as well. Jimmy Hicks and Sue Diamond do an excellent job. They'll, I'm sure, be a part of these presentations later on in the process, if not a part of others. They do an excellent job working with these retailers, making sure they have all the necessary resources they need out in venue, making sure we're providing them the materials they need. So it really is similar to casino control at the lottery, a group effort. Everybody has a role to play, and with an expansion this large, it really takes a full village of staff to make sure everyone gets what they need. So I don't know if Will, if you want to start kind of with your general overview, if you want me to go ahead, it's up to you either way.
Yeah, thanks, John. I'll go ahead, start off with type A and B gaming so we can go in alphabetical order. But I always laugh. We literally just had orientation here this morning for some new staffers. We don't like calling it A and B gaming anymore, or even C gaming, because it's confusing. It doesn't help anyone. So let's talk about what sports gaming actually is going to look like in the state of Ohio. So what is called type A gaming is online sports gaming. This is the first true large expansion into online gaming in the state. I'm not going to tell you there's not online gaming going on in the state currently, even some legal forms of online gaming going on in the state currently. But we haven't had a true push into online gaming like this before. And so the General Assembly, when they legalized sports gaming, this was the first time they made that large expansion into that forum. And with online gaming, what they allowed for is up to 46 different online operators to conduct sports gaming in the state. Currently, I should have looked this up. I always forget. I think we're around 25 actual brands that are looking to conduct sports gaming in the state. If you want to look it up and make sure you know exactly who are the legal ones, the easiest way to do so is always casinocontrol.ohio.gov. From that website, you can check on sports gaming. You can go to our licensing page, and we keep a up-to-date list of who is licensed on that page, both online and brick and mortar. So online, we have those 25 different sports books that you're going to be seeing. Those names are names you're probably familiar with at this point: DraftKings, FanDuel, Barstool, BetMGM, Rush Street. If I leave someone out, they'll yell at me later, but that's where I'm going to end it. But also some names you might not be familiar with, and some startups in the space. And it's been incredibly challenging for the commission dealing with these well-established entities as well as some of these newer startups. And honestly, sometimes the newer startups are coming with some of the better sports gaming, responsible gaming protocols. But there's a lot of different issues with online sports gaming, and we'll kind of get into some of that later. But one issue, of course, is the speed at which it can happen. That you're no longer needing to walk up to a window, wait in a line, place a bet, talk to a person. You're clicking a few buttons. So it does come with an incredible amount of added risk, and something that we're looking to hopefully mitigate here in partnership with everyone. The next type of sports gaming that the General Assembly allowed was type B sports gaming. And again, to not just give you alphabet soup, we're going to call that brick and mortar sports gaming. And that brick and mortar sports gaming is that old school style, go to a window, place a bet like you're in Vegas. The sports books won't look anywhere near as nice, but they'll be here in the state of Ohio, and they'll be available for people at a much cheaper cost than jumping on a flight or crossing the border. And on those brick and mortar sports books, again, we still have a lot of risks. One of the biggest ones in that brick and mortar really presents that is not presented by online. Online actually mitigates some of the anonymousness of wagering due to the very fact that you need accounts to wager online. The brick and mortar facilities do not need an account. I'm going to tell you, we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the actual consumer protections. the industry fought the Casino Control Commission very hard. We tried to limit the amount of anonymous wagering that would occur on the Type B side. But you can go, it's public documents, they're on our website, look at the reports that occurred as we were adopting the rules. The industry really did want larger anonymous wagering. So that's one of the big things that we're fighting from the brick and mortar side. Now on that brick and mortar side, again, we're looking at about low 20s on the number of sports books that are in the state. Where you will generally see those brick and mortar sports books are at the existing casino and racino properties, at the sport team venues, which I think is important to understand because there are additional risks there, where of course, at those sport team venues, there are individuals under the age of 21. Individuals going there aren't necessarily seeking to engage in gaming, but it'll now be right there. But again, we've worked very closely with our partners. We feel very strongly about how they're setting up some of the responsible gaming procedures there, but it's a new risk. It's something people aren't used to, as well as they can be pretty much anywhere in the state, so long as the county in which they're looking to locate that sports book has at least 100,000 people. So some of the Appalachian regions won't necessarily face brick and mortar sportsbook risks, but a lot of the other areas of the state will. And some areas of the state will have up to 5 sports books. Those are going to be your big population centers, your Cuyahoga County, your Franklin County, your Hamilton County. So, and even now, currently, there's even talk about potentially adding more than 5 to some of those counties. So it's always something to be aware of, something to look out for. So that's a little bit of an overview of what the commission's responsibilities really are as far as the regulation of sports gaming over that online and brick and mortar, where you'll find them. And like I said, there could be up to 46 online and up to 40 physical, but we're currently in the 20s. And then with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jon and his team, who's really in charge of the sports gaming lottery and the kiosks throughout the state.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, I'll give a quick overview similar to Will, just on the Type C end of it. As he mentioned, it's a little bit unique in the state of Ohio in that the Casino Control is a regulator for Type A and B and the licensing authority for all 3 license types, but the lottery is the regulator for your Type C program. So what Type C is focused on is your in-venue, your retail locations. So it's slightly different than obviously your brick and mortar, which are your casino, racino, professional sports teams. Your Type C, what we call host locations, would be your retailers, your bars and restaurants, your grocery stores, any of those locations that are existing lottery retailers are eligible for this program as long as they meet requirements outlined in the legislation. So for our end, we have your proprietors, similar to A and B, which would be your sportsbook operators. And then we have our hosts, which are our retail locations. So just quickly give an overview on how it's set up. Your requirements for a host, there is a liquor license requirement. So you must have a specific Type D 1, 2, or 5 liquor permit. You must not be a nonprofit. So you must be a for-profit organization. You must be an existing lottery retailer and in good standing with the lottery rules and regulations. And then you also will get a recommendation from the lottery. So the way that we're handling that is we've set up an interest form submission through our website back in May. Retailers that are interested in the program were able to go in, submit some basic information on themselves, their business name, contact information, a retailer number. They would submit that information. The lottery would then take that info. We would review against their requirements. So we would look at the Department of Commerce, the liquor lookup to make sure they had that proper liquor permit, do a Secretary of State lookup, make sure that they're a business in good standing with the state. They're, again, not a nonprofit. We would do our review as well for the lottery stand. So making sure that they are a good standing lottery retailer, they are active, they have followed rules and regulations on the lottery side. If all that was met, we would go ahead and issue them a lottery recommendation. So it was something that was sent via email to every retailer that applied. If they met those requirements, they received the recommendation, which allowed them to take the next step, which was then applying for a license through Casino Control and their e-licensing portal. So just to give an idea, as of 10/31, we have recommended on the lottery end over 1,400 retail locations. I believe the number is 1,413 as of this morning. And with that, 920, it looks like they have submitted an application to Casino Control through the e-licensing portal. If that number is incorrect, Will, you can correct me on that later, but I believe it's around that area. So there is still a little bit of a gap of about 500 or so retailers. And from our conversations with them, a lot of them are just looking to see how the program rolls out. I think, as we've talked about, this is a brand new program, more expansive than anywhere else in the country. So some of these retailers are still just wanting to see how it formulates, what kind of things are required of a retail location. So I think as we continue to move forward, that gap will become smaller and smaller. But really, we've covered the entire state as far as the Type C program, something as a retail option that's going to be more expansive than really any state in the country. There are states that are doing retail, but nobody to this level. With, again, right now, I believe it's 875. Again, Will, if I'm wrong, but I believe have been approved.
That looks good to me, John.
Okay, somewhere in that range. Have been conditionally approved for a license through Casino Control. So that is our base to start. They can find a proprietor partner and be ready to go January 1st or later as they roll out. But we're looking at close to 900 locations already that are signed up. And looking from our end, that includes, from a recommendation purpose, almost 75 counties throughout the state. So really, you're talking about main focus is in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. But then again, you're going to have locations throughout the state. 75 of the 88 counties have some form of recommended location. So it really will be all over the state. Our proprietors, we have 7 sportsbook operators that have applied. They are also located all different parts of Ohio geographically. We have Iron Gate or Bet IGG that is in Youngstown. We have a UBet Ohio that's in Toledo. We have Ellis Right Bet, which is kind of focused in the Dayton area. You have your Intralot and your Gold Rush, and those that are focused in Cleveland, and your Skybox, which is Columbus area. So we really are spread all throughout the state. So there should be no areas that, if they are looking for it, can be a part of it, but also, to our earlier part, bring some challenges with it as well. We don't have a centralized area that we can focus on for resources and making sure to monitor. So we really have to do our due diligence, spread a wide net to make sure that we're using all of our resources to monitor how these locations are operating, making sure they're following our operating standards. We do have the 9 lottery regional offices, which helps as a resource for us as well, which are spread throughout the state to kind of help us with some of the things that may come up. But from a Type C perspective, that's kind of the landscape we're working on. It truly is statewide, and it's something that we'll continue to work on. And as the program grows, we'll be adding more locations, I think, throughout this process. So Will, if we pass it back to you, if you want to start kind of some of your consumer protections, and then we can go through later some of the Type C portions as well.
Yep, that sounds good. And Kristen, I saw your question there on a one-pager. We don't have a good one-pager outlining the 3 types necessarily. What I'm going to share in the chat here is a longer PowerPoint presentation that I am not going to use today, because I've found if I use PowerPoint presentations, I'll go way too long. And everyone looks at the slides and not necessarily listens to the content. So promise you won't go look at the slides and not listen to the content. They'll be there afterwards. But I'm going to share that right now so you guys can take a look at it. And again, just remember, there's a lot of alphabet soup, a lot of legalese in this bill, and even in that PowerPoint presentation, because it's tough to get through this bill without it. Again, lots of weird language, right? Proprietor, as John just said, and host on the Type C side, but it's just sportsbook and bar. Proprietor and services provider on our side. But really, all you really need to know is the services provider, and that's the sportsbook. The proprietor's an Ohio-based business, generally not really super engaged in gambling itself, unless it's one of the casinos or racinos. So take a look at that. That may be helpful in trying to distill some of this, but really do want to focus a lot of our time here, not necessarily on the types of sports gaming or anything else, but really on what we're doing with this new form of gaming in the state. So on that point, some of the major things that the commission has done, and again, I'll try to divide this between online and in person, is make sure that people have the resources to help themselves. Make sure that those resources are not just small footer, but are actually front and center. Oh, I can't post everyone. I see that now. Or I did it wrong. I'll fix that next time. So on that front, what we have is on the online side, really use those account-based procedures to make sure that we've identified people, that people who are gaming are over the age of 21, that the operators are using suppliers that we license for what's called KYC, Know Your Customer, that are licensed, that can do Know Your Customer procedures, that can verify that an individual is over the age of 21, that can verify that an individual is who they say they are. And one of the big reasons why it's important not just to say an individual is over the age of 21 or not, but that an individual is exactly who they say they are, is so that we can help protect people who want to join in on the voluntary exclusion program. I'm not going to dive into the voluntary exclusion program because there's a really good webinar coming later in this series that you should listen to with Corey and Susan. But on that voluntary exclusion program, it gives people the ability, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, the ability to exclude themselves from gaming, not have advertisements come their way, not be able to enter into facilities, and now not be able to enter into online websites promoting gambling. And that's going to be a very critical tool for the commission. Beyond some of those age and identity verification tools, we also made sure that each operator is adopting a responsible and problem gambling plan, so that those individuals who are participating in sports gaming are doing so with an operator who has already lined out in advance how to deal with an individual who may be over gambling, who may be, if we're talking in the in-person sphere, saying words like, oh my gosh, I hope I win this very next bet. I've lost so many in a row, and this is going to really impact my life. Now, they're not going to say those exact words, but they're going to potentially say words that indicate they need help. And we've seen that on the casino side. We have some good RG ambassadors at all of the properties who do a really good job of discreetly and appropriately intervening. It's not a perfect system, but it does help. And that's what we'll be looking for on this side as well. We also made sure that on the in-person side, we did adopt an anonymous wager cap of $1,000 per bet. $1,000 per bet. Honestly, we tried to start at $100 per bet. But if you go back and you look at the comments that we received, all of the operators asked for a much higher cap, some as high as $10,000 per bet. And this is where I want to kind of dive into what some of the prevention and treatment people can do on the front end, is interact with us. We had a lot of really good comments this time around, and I think Derek deserves a really immense amount of credit for the work that he does in getting people energized, engaged with government entities, and trying to control what this looks like from the start. So because we had really good comments from the industry, we were able to stick with a $1,000 limit, or from the prom gaming side, we were able to stick with a $1,000 limit despite having people asking us for $10,000. We were able to do some really great things with not allowing advertising on college campuses for sports gaming. Not a lot of states have that regulatory restriction, but honestly, it is going to be immensely helpful because we've seen some of these operators partner directly with colleges, send out emails directly to colleges. If anyone's ever seen Brianne, and I won't even try to say her last name, present, she does a really good job in talking about the risks that college athletes in particular face, as well as college students in general, with this expansion to online gaming. So being able to say, no, do not advertise to that group of people who are on college campuses. They're mostly under the age of 21. Why would you allow that? Has been very important to us. Some other incredibly important things that the commission's been able to push through has also involved the way that we can set limits on the online side. So in addition to just making sure that we know who an individual is, we can also make sure as soon as this individual creates an account, they are immediately given the ability to say, I want to set limits. They have to be actually shown that they can go to that limit setting page and say, I don't want to gamble more than $100 a day. I don't want to deposit more than $200 a day. I don't want to gamble for more than an hour straight. And they do have all of those options. Each operator needed to give them the ability to set deposit limits, play limits, and time limits. So each individual, again, can customize their own experience, make themselves available to the level of risk that they feel comfortable with. Now, again, operators can't just take those limits and go with them. They need to continue to engage with their patrons, make sure they're reviewing all of their patrons' activities, and make sure that all the gambling that is occurring is as responsible as they can. Now, the biggest thing I think moving forward is we've seen some movement in other states with trying to use algorithms to look at those limits, to look at patron play, and to determine when someone may have, I think the industry generally calls them markers of harm. I think they're actually moving away from harm though and going to markers of another word. But by doing those markers of harm analysis, they're able to say, hey, this person continues to play at 2 a.m. This person continues to bet more at 2 a.m. than when they're betting during the day. Maybe we should have an intervention with that person, talk to them. New Jersey is really leading the way on that. And I think it's something the commission's really interested in taking a look at moving forward. So again, going back to my kind of overall point of engaging with the commission, making sure we're hearing you guys, that's something that's going to be really important. And not just the commission, the legislature, anyone who has input on this, it's important to make your voices heard. So with that, John.
Thank you, Will. So I think from our side, this is something, RG, that we take very serious. And I think our goal, being that we do have so many retail locations, is just to make sure that every retailer from our end is well equipped with everything that they need. We want to make sure they have the proper RG messaging. We want to make sure they have training. We want to make sure they have the resources they need to handle the patrons that come in, and also to handle their own staff, the proprietor staff, the host staff. So from our end, we've tried to add as many things as we can. We've tried to pivot off a lot of the things that we're doing on the traditional lottery side as well. I think one of the first parts, obviously with Type C and retail, being at restaurants and other areas that aren't necessarily age gate locations, some of those casinos, racinos that are doing, upfront ID checks as an age gated location, we have to first focus on that end. So one of the things that we have made sure each proprietor is required to do is to have an age verification. This is 21 and over to play sports gaming, where our traditional lottery is 18 and over. So we wanted to make sure, first and foremost, that all these proprietors have a procedure in place to check ID. So they have two options. They can either do a physical ID check. The machines will have to be in a segregated area within the location, either roped off or have signage basically saying you must be 21 to play, and you would have a staff within line of sight that would be able to check IDs, make sure they're 21, and verify that they're able to actually play the machines. What we do have, which is a very kind of cool setup that's coming for some of the proprietors, and hopefully more as they get rolled out, is the ability to do an ID check on their actual hardware. So we do have at least a couple proprietors that are hoping to have this available at launch. But basically, in order to activate the machine, you would have to either scan your driver's license or do an ID swipe. it would verify you're 21 and you're of age to play, and then would give you access to the kiosk. If you swiped an ID that was 18 or 17, it would no longer let you move forward. It would not give you the availability to play on the screen. So that is something that we've obviously taken very serious, and is above all else, so first and foremost, making sure that the people that are playing are of age to play. I think though, that when you move forward into that, we wanted to make sure, similar to casino control, we do have requirements for every proprietor to submit their RG plans, also their marketing and advertising plans. That is not only for implementation here, but will be annually for every year going forward. All those plans are reviewed by our own team here. Obviously, the responsible gambling will be in part with our RG team to make sure that the messaging they put out is correct, to make sure that they have, the Ohio Problem Gambling Helpline. That's something that should be on all signage, whether it's fixed or electronic. That includes your customer-facing screen tasks. That includes any signs. So things like that have to be a part of every message you put out. We also will have, for educational materials, your brochures, and that your toolkits will have on those materials as well for people to access. So just making sure, again, that information is there and available to all. We also will have our own marketing and advertising standards that they must follow. So we've used the NASPL and the AGA requirements for responsible marketing and advertising, making sure that all their plans, are not targeting children. There's no cartoons or things trying to get younger play from kids that aren't 21. Making sure, again, that we talk about sports gaming is not risk-free, implying that is something that we're trying to get away from. Those risk-free bets, those ideas that there's no risk involved in playing, something that we want to make sure is not being put out there by proprietors. We also have our bet slip ticket language. So something similar to our traditional lottery. On all the tickets that are placed, the bet slip comes back. On the back of that has your responsible gambling, again, your phone number, how to access the website. So that will be a part of this as well. You'll have back a slip ticket language that includes responsible gaming messaging, just to, and again, ensure that no matter where you are, you have access to that material. And then we also will be supplementing all of the material that the proprietors are putting out. We will be supplementing with lottery material as well. So I know Jimmy and Sue and the team is working on different brochures, again, toolkits, things that can be posted throughout all of these locations, even potentially campaigns we can partner with each of these proprietors as well in these venues, using our Keep It Fun and our timeout campaigns to make sure that information is available. It's front of center, front of mind for some of these players, and that they know that if they do want to opt out, they do want to take part in the VP program, the resources there are available to them. I will echo Will's point earlier that I know that there is a seminar coming here later for the VP portion. So that should provide some more guidance on that. But I know the team here has worked hard. We recently went to controlling board and were able to increase our appropriation there, over $600,000 worth. And part of that will be going to expanding that Ohio VP program. That will become an online portal for players and people to opt out from the comfort of their home. They don't have to be in venue. They don't have to go to the casino racino to take part in that VP program. They'll be able to do that from home. And also for our end, again, to start building those campaigns to making sure that we have all the material out. Again, we're just trying to prepare the retailers as best we can. We understand this is something that's going to evolve over time. All these things always evolve with responsible gambling and making sure that you're staying ahead of different things that come out. But as joining this new kind of venture here in sports gaming, we want to make sure we're hitting it as hard as we can up front, making sure everyone has the resources that they need. Just to ensure things like wager limits, as Will mentioned, we have that for the Type C as well. For Type C, it's actually $700. We have our velocity controls that we've used on the traditional side as well for things like player accounts and credit and debit transactions to be limited to that $700. So there are a number of different controls that we are trying to implement, not only from the host side, but also the player side. We also have training ongoing. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but as they come front of mind, I just want to make sure I'm putting it out there. But we also have our RG training for both the proprietors. They will have to do training for their own staff to make sure they're educated in the materials that they're putting out. Then more importantly, also have the host staff doing that training as well. So they will be required to provide training to all hosts. We do understand that the restaurants and the bars and that aren't the same as personnel working in a casino or casino. So we want to make sure that they have adequate training. It's initial training up front, but it's also annual recurring training for them. So that they're able to understand what is required of them. Also some of the behavioral things that they can keep an eye on for players. All these machines will be in line of sight of staff. So some of that responsibility will be on the staff to monitor players as they go through and as they're making wagers. So we just want to make sure that everyone, again, has all the tools that they can have that are at their disposal to help kind of deal with some of this problem gambling that may be coming along the lines with the expansion of sports gaming. So my last bit, and I'll just kind of put out for the lottery end of things, we also have our website. If you go to www.ohiolottery.com, at the top, there is a section for sports gaming. If you click on that section, we have FAQs there for hosts and proprietors. We have some of our host information. If you want to see, again, the recommended locations we've put out, where they're located throughout the state. We also have proprietor information for all 7 proprietors, where they're at in the process. And then we have our listserv. So if you would like to sign up through that overview page on the website for our listserv and get email notifications as we make changes, there's an avenue for that as well. So I will pass it back to Will. Again, thank you for the time here, and we're happy to answer questions at the end if there's anything that comes up. But Will, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts from your side.
I don't have too much more, John. You hit it out the park there, truthfully. I do want to thank John for making sure we really hit the advertising portion. I skipped that in mine. Want to make sure that everybody is on the lookout. Help us be on the lookout for problem gambling messages in ads. If you don't see them, let us know. There should be problem gambling messaging in every sports gaming ad. I know I got a haircut last night, so I could look very fresh for this webinar. And right as I was about to walk through the door, I was listening to 97.1 The Fan, and they had, I don't even remember which on-air personality doing an ad read for FanDuel. And I was like, oh, I'm like a little late for this haircut, but let me see how this ad read ends, because I want to see if I get a RG message. And we got an RG message, and it wasn't so fast that you couldn't hear it, which is always great to hear. And that's one thing I know both commissions are really going to be looking out for, is true, conspicuous, making sure that we're getting problem gaming messaging out there. So thank you for that, John. And then the last thing I did want to just hit, I will also share a link, and I've got it set up to everybody now. Because the commission really is the entity charged with licensing, our list is probably the list to use right now for sports gaming. The lottery's list is much prettier on Type C host, to be honest with you. They do a really good job on that. Our list is on e-license, which if you go ahead and you click the link I just provided, there's a link to e-license on this spreadsheet that will give you all the hosts, give you all the bars and taverns. The list in particular, again, to just beat a dead horse and drill this down, look at services providers. Those are the entities who are actually engaged in gaming and the entities you want to talk to. If you're looking at trying to figure out any responsible gaming resources or anything else. And with that, Derek, PG&O, happy to answer any questions or anything else.
Great. Thanks to both John and Will for providing the comments today and kind of setting up where we're going to go for the next 5 weeks. We've now reached the Q&A portion of today's call, so please ask your question in the Q&A section of your Zoom navigation panel. Also, just as we look at from an advocacy standpoint, I think transparency is the key to advocacy, and there is very clear and transparent processes both through the Ohio Casino Control Commission and the Ohio Lottery Commission. So check out their websites, get on those distribution lists, and also, if you can, attend one of the commission meetings. Both the Casino Control Commission and the Lottery Commission has monthly, Casino Control twice monthly now, meetings that are open to the general public, and that includes you. And if you're not able to drive to downtown Cleveland to the lottery meeting or the one in downtown Columbus for Casino Control, they also stream them. So it's a good way to just know what's happening without leaving the comfort of your own home or office. So I think those are important things to recognize as you kind of think about ways to get engaged, because when we talk about advocacy, so often we think of advocacy as, well, just talking to our legislators at the State House, and there's a lot of other steps that you can take for advocacy. So kind of with that in mind, Will, I guess I'll ask this question to you, and then John, feel free to chime in. As our community members are listening to the two of you now, thinking about those key messages or key points about sports betting, what are some things that they should take back to their communities to make sure that their community members understand?
So I think the number one thing I would encourage everyone to understand is to talk to the operators as well. Don't just talk to us. We're really great resources, and feel free to talk to us, and we can serve as that middle point. But also, a lot of these operators are open to listening, open to talking. We had a really great conversation, and this might not be the most popular operator on this group, but there's a group called Better. Their star is Jake Paul, and they're engaging in a form of gambling, or hoping to engage in a form of sports gaming should they be licensed. That's called micro betting. It's really fast individual event betting. Has a lot of risk with it. Because you're betting on the very next pitch of a game, right? We're very quick. We're approaching slot machine speed. But they've done some really good things in partnership with us and with the communities. They voluntarily said, we're not taking credit cards. No one forced them to. They said so themselves. We talked to them. They were offering a free product where they're giving out gift cards right now before they launch, but are not taking in money. BetJack has a very similar product. And we talked to them, gave them a call and said, we don't see RG messaging on this free to play site. This seems like advertising for your real money site. And immediately they said, done. We will get it up. We will get it done first thing. By the end of the day, I had an email with some mock-ups about how this would look. So these guys, they really do want to hear about responsible gaming. They want to talk to us. They want to talk to you guys and figure out how they can get this done right. Because the industry knows there's no reason to be preying on people who need help.
Yeah, and just to reiterate earlier, I think from our side is while we're trying to give as much information as we can up front, we do understand that this is a brand new market. So kind of as Will mentioned earlier, we would love to hear from you all if there's things that you notice. We are trying to make sure, especially in these retail locations, RG is front and center and the messaging that we put out, but we also understand that this is going to continue to evolve. So if there are opportunities for us to take, if there's different ways for us to, put out messaging, if there's things out there that don't seem like they are meeting the standards that we think they should, we're happy to take feedback. And, I think from all of our end, the more feedback you get, there's always things that you can improve or change. And so I think we're definitely eager to get started, but also know that there's going to be a lot of changes that come with this, and just making sure that we stay in front of all the DRG type stuff.
Thank you both. And I think that's where it's so important for our community members to be the eyes and ears for the commissions, because they can't see everything, especially with the level of expansion that we're going to be experiencing right now. Will, this question is for you, came from Amanda. She says, or asks, does the no advertising on college campuses include not advertising on uniforms/jerseys and physically on campus?
So I think two different things are going on there, but happy to kind of drill down into them. So if it means a college athlete's jersey, certainly cannot advertise on a college athlete jersey on a college campus. And I hope to God no operators trying to go that way, but who knows? Also hope the NCAA is not trying to go that way, but who knows? As far as professionals, the commission actually originally tried to adopt a rule that said no advertising on professional jerseys. The impetus behind it was to make sure that people who buy jerseys are who. I mean, yeah, some adults buy jerseys. I'm going to be honest, I've bought a jersey over the age of 21 because I'm kind of nerdy. But a lot of people who buy jerseys are under the age of 21. And why do they buy jerseys? For their hero worship, right? Because they look up to LeBron James, they look up to Joe Burrow and want to make sure that they can be like them. So we try to adopt a restriction on that. The industry pushed back really hard. I've actually never received a comment that said we are going to sue you for rulemaking process in the rulemaking process, but we did. On this particular one, got very bad pushback. So no, there is no restriction on professional jerseys not containing that patch. However, not containing a gambling patch. However, right now, none of them can put those patches on youth size jerseys, of course. They cannot put it on products that are primarily geared towards younger kids, toys, things like that. So although you will see there's a soccer team here in the state that has a jersey patch for their sports book, if you bought a youth size jersey, you will not see that sports book patch. And then I got another question here. I'll just take that real quick. The professional sports teams, will they have a sports book located at the venue? It's a little tough to answer. They can. Some of them will. The Cavs have very publicly stated they hope on January 1st, Cavs Arena will have a sports book. I think their first game might be January 2nd, post the start date. So on January 2nd, they hope to have a sports book right there in venue that you can access from the venue. Some of the other sports leagues, the answer is eventually yes. But some of their leagues have actually put in place restrictions that they can't. So right now, the NFL cannot have a venue inside of the actual, cannot have a sports book inside the actual venue. And some of the other leagues, I'm a little foggy, I can't remember exactly, but you can't access them during games, but they can be in the venue. So it's definitely, again, a higher risk point of individuals under the age of 21 being pushed up right against a sports book.
Thank you, Will. And Michelle asks, Derek, are you willing to email the PowerPoint? Sure, I'm happy to, but there wasn't really a PowerPoint today outside of just kind of our introductory slides for PGNO. So can share those out, or you can just go to pgnohio.org/events or go to the sports betting page, or the Ready, Set, Go page that is on the link that I'll drop in shortly. Larry asks, can they use college players in their commercials, and can they pay them?
John, you want me to take this one, or? Got it. On this one, also a little tricky, but generally speaking, it's going to refer back to the being over the age of 21. So if a college student was over the age of 21, they could use them in their commercials. They can also use live depictions of any individual in an advertisement. So they could use live pictures of the Buckeye game. However, that again was a heavily commented on thing. The commission originally said no individuals under 21 at all. We got pushback saying all individuals of all ages. You can again look at those comments, and ended up settling on a middle ground of needs to be individuals over the age of 21. However, you can use live depiction of real sporting events. However, if you're using live depictions of athletes in sporting events, you can't say, let's say there is a baseball player who's 20 who's playing, you can't say, what does 20-year-old baseball player think of sports betting, and then show them hitting a home run, because we all know what you're doing there. So it can't be used in such a way as to depict them actually endorsing the sports book, just as live background.
And Will, I know that this is out of your ballpark, but I believe there is also elements within the name, image, likeness legislation that specifically excluded gambling from those agreements. Is that?
Yeah, it's interesting there. I know there's a large push I think in the state of Washington, it's a little bit different. And I think they've used a Gonzaga player maybe to endorse sports gaming. And I know there's been some pushes in a few other states / a few other operators. I think that's going to continue to evolve. NIL is a really interesting area. And I know last PGNO conference, somebody brought up a really interesting push of maybe doing NIL for problem gambling on the other side, and having athletes kind of say, look, gambling is fun, but do it responsibly, and not be associated with an operator, which I thought was a good idea.
And if you know a professional athlete audience, send them our way that would like to talk about those things. Since we don't have any money for them, but we'd happy to use their name, image, and likeness to help support our messages. Olivia has dropped the evaluation link in the chat, so please feel free to complete that. As a reminder, the session is being recorded and will be posted to both our YouTube channel and the Ready, Set, Go page of the PGNO website by Thursday. It takes a little time for Cheyenne to copy and do all the magical things that she does to make that happen. And if you complete that survey, then you should look to get the certificate from today out in sometime within a week or so. And there's a large number of us on today, so thank you for that. We've got about 3 minutes longer. Want to make sure that we allow the time for Jon and Will to answer any additional questions that you have. Or Jon and Will, while we're looking at that, are there other comments or things that you just want to make sure that we hit on?
I don't have anything else, Derek. Just continue to reach out to us as you guys have any questions or anything else. Jon, Susan over at the lottery, amazing resources, great people. Please feel free to reach out to all of us.
I would echo the same. Like I said, if you have any questions on the Type C, please visit that lottery website. I saw it was posted in the chat there. Take a look at some of the material there. If you have questions, please reach out to us. But we have been lucky to have a great relationship with Casino Control at this point, sharing information and with any of these questions. So if it's something to us, we'd be happy to get them involved, and I'm sure vice versa. If there's things that we can do to help each other, we're all kind of working towards the same goal here.
Great. Thank you both. And I think that's an important thing to remember is whether you're an operator, whether you're a regulator, if you're coming from prevention or treatment, none of us want to see people hurt, and none of us want to see individuals being negatively impacted by gambling. So the more we can work together and help better understand how to be that safety net for those that are going to be impacted, because we know some portion of our audience will be, that we need to be there and help support them. That's all that we have for today. Please join us next week for Get to Know Pause Before You Play. And that will be a week from today on November 7th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because daylight time will be ending at that point. So remember to set those clocks appropriately. And until then, feel free to always engage with us or ask those questions at info@pgnoohio.org. Thank you again to Jon and Will for all of your great work today. And also want to thank Corey for all the work that he did in coordinating Jon and Will today, as well as the additional sessions that we have coming up. That's all that we have, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.